Hey guys, welcome back again to Ken Tamplin Vocal Academy, where the proof is in the singing, and it's good to be here on this Saturday. I want a couple shout outs. Tell me where you guys are coming from. Let's see here. We got Nepal. That's a long way away. What else we got here? All right. I got a team still helping me, and we are getting this little by little. We're getting this figured out more and more. Today's subject is going to be a little surprising because there's a lot of confusion on the internet, and there's a lot of people that read textbooks and they parrot stuff that they've heard, and you know, they really don't even apply it. They just regurgitate stuff that they've read, and then they apparently are experts on the subject. So, and by the way, it doesn't even make me an expert on the subject. I'm just saying that there's a lot of this going on. So we're going to talk about head voice. We're going to talk about falsetto and reinforced falsetto. We're going to talk about chest voice. We're going to talk about mixed voice. But within each one of these things, I want you guys to understand that everybody's voice is different, and they have kind of gear shifts that shift into these elements of their voice in different ways. So I really want to kind of get around this. And there's, I think it was last week, we did a whole expose where we talked about 25 different vocal types. We won't have anywhere near the time to cover that today, but at least I can give you a scopic overview of everything that will be necessary to give you tools to get to where you want to go, okay? Very first thing is, I do want to get some shout outs, so I'll kind of warm this thing up a little bit. So what do we got here? I'm looking up here. I got Jason. Jason from Mexico. All right, Jason. We're neighbors right now. I'm in Mexico. I'm in San Miguel de Allende. Got Nikki from Jersey. Cool, good, awesome, Nikki. And who else we got? We got wow, from where? That's a very small print for me. From Brazil. Okay, cool. That would be Alma Guitars. Andre Mora from Brazil. Good to meet you, Alma. Alma, probably Alma, like Alma Rose. Let's see, from Wales, South Wales, from England. Nice. You know, anyway, as these come through, I want to go ahead and just kind of open this up for grabbing a couple questions from last week, because I know everybody wants to get their questions answered. So let me start with that first, as we're getting some kudos. Jacob Murphy from Australia. People all over, and by the way, guys, isn't this cool? Like, you have these people from all over the world that can tune in and get really good information. You really can't do that if you just go up to your vocal coach up the street. You get to tune into a lot of cool stuff from all around the world to specific experts in their field. Okay, so anyway, from Sao Paulo, all right, Brazil, awesome. Okay, can we grab a couple of questions or no? All right, we're going to post a couple questions. And before I get started, I want to dispel some things that were really difficult for me growing up and going through the process of understanding head voice, chest voice, mixed voice, falsetto, reinforced falsetto. What did that all mean? So confessedly, I started out early on with bel canto, with the classical opera training, and it went on to Appoggio. And then from there, I learned that it fell short of a lot of the things that I was looking to do. And the explanations were really inconsistent from one coach to another. And then they didn't really make that much sense to me. And let me explain what I mean by that. And I'm going to call them quadrants of the voice. And I should have done this in my course. I didn't. But though I explain it thoroughly, I should have just used this term quadrants of the voice. Okay? Now, I'm just going to talk about the male voice for a second and then the female voice. They're two different animals because female chords are half to two-thirds the size of male voice. Countertenor, like mixed voice, if we can get to all those questions, I'll try to do my best. But anyway, so I'm going to start with the male voice just because it's what I grew up with, and then my understanding of how I was able to morph my own voice into the female register and get crazy, range and whatnot. So classical training teaches, most classical training teaches, that you have anything that resonates in your chest is your chest voice. And anything that resonates in your head is your head voice. Well, there's a little bit of a problem with that because it doesn't differentiate when you go through mixed voice and go into falsetto and trying to learn how to connect this. And so there's this enigma that happens. And that's really not cool because it's almost like someone's trying to keep information away from you or something. I don't know. I've spent so much money on my voice and I've studied with so many coaches and I've applied this so many times and 40 records out and again, 1,000 song and plays and film and television, just a lot of stuff. I sort of decided to go ahead and coin my own phrases and concepts to make it easier for people to really understand. Now, it's going to go against the grain of some classical bel canto apologists. I understand that, and that's fine. Let's remember, too, they only have 5 vowels that they sing, and we sing, up to 16, or in diphthongs, 25, 30, 40. Like, it expands so far beyond four to 5 vowels that you sing in Italian. So we got to kind of, reel this in for a minute. So first thing is what is chest voice? Well, chest voice in bel canto is anything that resonates here, right here, okay? That's chest voice. Now, head voice is anything that resonates in the head, okay? Now, there's a little bit of a problem with that because, let me give you an example. When Pavarotti sings Nessun Dorma and he goes for the high B, which should be the high C, but they cheat on a note, but he goes for the high B, they actually call that head voice. But he's actually singing it in his belting call register. And let me tell you why that's important. That was as confusing as heck for me to try to understand, well, wait a minute, was it head voice? Was it falsetto? Was it reinforced falsetto? Like, how did he get to that note? Okay? And why do they call it head voice? Okay, so back in the 1800s, this is going way back, guys, and you probably heard me say this before, so I'm just going to glaze over this. For the male tenor, the most important note of the night was the C, the high C. And it didn't matter if it was Caruso, Mario Lanza, Placido Domingo, Luciano Pavarotti. It didn't matter who it was. That was the big note of the night, and they might have done it 2 or 3 times in an aria, and arias, could be as long as 3 hours. I mean, it's a big piece of music. So anyway, so they called that head voice. Now, in the mid-70s, around 1972, when Yamaha School of Music started to come in and there were other people started to try to describe this for the female register, this is where it gets kind of weird, head voice was really the transition between your call register, I'm going to get to that, I'm going to get to belting, I'm going to get to all this in a minute, but your call register, I'm really trying to clear up a lot of stuff, guys, and get the dross away so we could just get really simple on this. The call register was calling out to someone. Hey, that's my car. How's it going? Yeah! I mean, it was the call register, okay? Also known as the Broadway belt. So in Broadway, they would say, can you belt? Can you do the Broadway belt? And Bette Midler was the first to rush up and say, I can do it. So these terms sort of started getting fuzzy between bel canto and Broadway and theater and just all these different things. So finally, what happened was new definitions were created for different types of voices and different types of singing and so forth. So here's how I want to break this down for you and make this super, super simple. Okay? I don't care what anyone else says on the internet. You can decide if the information I'm giving you is quality, and you can go wherever you think you get better information. The proof is in the singing. So if I have a call register, let me explain what that is. I'm going to start with the male baryton tenor register. When we speak at a certain volume, like I'm speaking to you now, okay? And we go through transitional points between how we speak, the volume at which we sing, okay? This becomes pivotally extremely important, and here's why. There is a very famous vocal course roaming around called speech level singing. You should always sing at the level that you speak. Now that's changed over the years, and they've backed up from that, and they really have ramped up and done a lot of cool stuff. I'm not here to bash that. That's not my point. What I'm trying to do is clarification. So the last time I checked, I didn't sing at the level that I spoke. And I speak pretty loudly, but when I sing, it's, hey! I hope for you guys with the headphones out there, yeah, yeah! Like, all of a sudden, bam, you get all this volume, right? Okay, this wasn't to hurt your, knock out your equilibrium, but it's to make a point that I don't sing at the level I speak. And not only that, I actually want to create resonance in my voice in a way that gives me monstrous ability to sing great notes and hold them in long phrases, etc., so that I don't have to use a lot of strength to do that. Even as, like I'm speaking right now, it requires more strength, but I want to be able to minimize that. Okay, so I want to, and I know I'm all over the road, but hang with me for a minute because I'm going to tie this all in together in just a little bit here. So let's go back to bel canto. So bel canto says that anything that resonates in the chest, when you feel it in your chest, that's called chest voice. Anything that resonates in the head, that's called head voice. And anything that is between that, where you pull back on the sound, they consider that mixed voice. Okay? Bel canto considers that mixed voice. Now, that's actually not a great way to look at it because we have transitional points, and like I said, I was going to back this up, where when I'm in my speaking register, and gosh, can you hand me my guitar over there? I should have grabbed this first. I have a cool team over here that's helping me. And when I'm in my speaking register, I'm down here. I'm low, right? And I don't get this crappy Martin backpacker. It's the only thing I have right now in Mexico, so sorry I don't have good intonation for guitars with me. But now as a baritone, I start to feel the pull of leaving my speaking register to go into my call register, which is also my belting register. Okay? Now, guys, please get your brain around this. Can I belt way down low in my speaking register? Yeah, I can. It's hard. So that definition isn't as easily interchangeable, but should be, in the sense that we should look at it as in quadrants, like I said at the very beginning of this, where we have our speaking register, our call register, and our falsetto register that can be turned into reinforced falsetto to give one long, powerful note. Where you can go through the full spectrum of the range of singing without the register break in the center. Okay? Now, mixed voice, I have to set this aside for a minute because that's a whole other animal, and we're going to get to it. And I want to make sure I get some questions, and we're already like 20 minutes in. But so let's do this again. Okay, let's start this over, this whole process after all of this backdrop. You had theater having definitions for one thing on Broadway. You had bel canto, or the vocal Fox system, German vocal Fox system, which had a different definition. And so then there's this confusion, okay? Falsetto and mixed voice are going to be something I'm going to close on because they're very, very important. But as we actually had this guy in, I think his name's Rob. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bob. Bob, can you please post Rob's Stratman's recent findings? I got a chance to read. We get students that are kind of techies, and he went through and he showed when I said all vowel sounds stem from it's the la, ah, and he proved that through technology of how the vowels break down. And so he did this awesome thing that's in my forums, Ken Tamplin Vocal Academy Singers Forums. By the way, I cover all this stuff in my singing course, guys. So if you want to take your studies further, encourage you to do that. If this is how far you want to go and you want to wait, that's fine too. But in the forums, we have over 14,000 members in there discussing this stuff. And you've got techie guys like Rob, Stratman is his name. And so Bob, if you'll put in the description when you can, and you have to sign up for this. It's not something you can just get instant access to. And it's free, but you got to sign up for it. He did a really cool breakdown of the resonance of voice at different frequencies. And most geeks would say, well, who cares? How does that make me a better singer? It really helps you understand how to make you a better singer. So anyway, we're going to go back to chest voice. So how I redefined this, and yes, this is Ken Tamplin redefining something. And I don't care if Bill Cano doesn't like it. I don't care if Seth Riggs doesn't like it. I don't care if theater doesn't like it. It was so easy for me to understand where I said, okay, I have a speaking register that I'm talking in now. I have a call or a belting register where I'm calling out to someone. Before I get from my speaking register to my call register, I have something called prima passaggio. It's the first passageway from speaking into belting or calling out. And for you guys out there, girls, sorry, I won't get a chance to go through all of this with you, but you're usually 3 to 5 notes above us, unless you're an alto and sing in the tenor register, then it would apply. Okay, let me say that again. Unless you're an alto, you're only a note or two away from where this happens in the tenor range. So as I go up the scale, la, la, right here, I feel the pull. La, all of a sudden, it's like, is that the top of my range? Or do I need to make a shift into my call register, my belting register? And then, as we talked about in our last session, vowel modifications apply. I can't go, hello, and have this big sound. I have to pare it down. So I have to understand how to control this sound as I'm going up like an elevator shaft. And I gotta really be careful about how I do this. This includes consonant sounds too, by the way, and we don't have time to cover that, but these are vowel sounds. So again, we have a speaking register. We go through what's called prima passaggio from the speaking register into the call register. We go from the call register, right? And so we can translate and go from one registration into the next to create one long, powerful note. Now here's the thing, okay? Well, how do we do that, Ken? Because your voice sounded like it was all the same. The tone all sounded the same. Well, it did because I worked on that. So there's a term called reinforced falsetto, and I actually really like that term, and here's why. The term means that you can take your falsetto register, which is usually hooty and fluty, and you've got very little to it, right? David Lee Roth was, right? Or you've got guys like, Mickey Thomas, it was like this crazy screaming high thing, right? Okay, so let's get back to Stratman. In my singers forums, his name's Rob, I think. Rob, if you're out there, thank you. He showed that if we can reinforce the brightness of of that falsetto register, like the whole spectrum of the range, but specifically falsetto, as I've said for 35 years, you can match the tonal quality of your chest voice, and then you get about 2 or 3 or 4 notes in the middle there somewhere where you bridge and you make the transition between the call or belting register on into head voice. And by the way, flageolet whistle register up in the Mariah Carey zone, way up there. We don't have time to talk about it. A lot of people want to do whistle register. That's a subject for another day. But anyway, so there are degrees of this. Now, here's where this also is important. And guys, this is a lot of information, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to give you guys a lot of stuff. But I want to point out a couple things. Where do we bridge at? Where is the break? Where do we go from our bridge, from our chest to our head register? Well, there's a lot of schools of thought on that, and one of the biggest schools of thought on it is that sorry, and by the way, I know when I belt, I blow your guys' mind and I freak you out. Please don't turn off just because of that. I'll try not to do that so much. When we go up into our head voice, and high range stuff, passing segundo passaggio, second passageway into the head voice. So let's do it again. There's primo passaggio. That's from speaking register into the call register. Then there's segundo passaggio, which is what I'm just going to simply turn as going from call register into falsetto. Okay? Well, reinforced falsetto means that you can grow the voice in a way that you can match the tonal call seamlessly from chest to head and back. Ooh, Ken, you just said head voice. I know, because I want to refer to head voice as falsetto or reinforced falsetto. I don't want to refer to head voice in the sense that when Pavarotti hits the high note in Nessun Dorma, they call that head voice. Now, here's another thing that's happened. In the 70s, again, for the female registration, when they translated into falsetto, it was called head voice. That was the general term, and it was very widely accepted. Now, the theater world loved it, and bel canto hated it, and so there's always this sort of like, this is how it's done, and this is, we're the authority on how we discuss things. But in the end, they were right. We can't have called a woman's falsetto head voice and a man belting and kicking butt in his chest voice at the top of his range head voice also. It's confusing, and we're not going to understand how we can get better at this if we don't really embrace some of these concepts. So I recoined some of these phrases myself, and I said, okay, since in the female register, it's considered head voice, can we not also include that in the male register? But head voice was synonymous with a really hooty, fluty falsetto sound. So when the term reinforced falsetto came in, it meant taking that falsetto sound with a really bright timbre and growing, like the Bee Gees. How can you mend a broken heart, still alive? That nice bright tone. So you could take that registration and literally match the tonal qualities of your chest voice. Okay, a lot of information. I know I'm going to get a lot of questions, and I'm sure I'm not connecting the dots in ways that are always the best. I cover all of this in my singing course, guys. So if you really want to understand it, I take the time to break this all down and show you how this has worked through the ages, how we can apprehend it. So anyway, so we get to mixed voice. And mixed voice means we get a certain amount of notes between this call register all the way up into our falsetto register, reinforced falsetto register, to make it sound consistent as one long note. Now, you've got a lot of crazy guys out there, Teddy Brendergast and who did Dance With My Father Again, fantastic black African artist, I'll think of his name in a minute, anyway, who can actually bring his head voice all the way down into his speaking register, and you can't even tell the difference. So I'm not saying there aren't freaks of nature out there that could do this. I'm just saying another example of this is, like I said, Sam Cooke, as I told you, is one of all-time favorite singers in the last session on, my favorite singers. Yeah, he was able to mix all the way up top. Mickey Thomas does the same thing. So there's a way to do this. And here's the way. And you guys are going, wow, you talked a lot about this, but you didn't really tell us how to do it. Well, I can't do it in an hour, but I can do it in my course. It's in there. But I can give you some tips. And the tips are what we do, and I'm going to also get to where we bridge. But what we can do is we can really lightly, and I mean really lightly, and we have to do that in all the vowels so that we don't lopside the voice. This isn't twang, where twang is based on where you only get one vowel sound. Ah vowel, it's the la-ah, is the king of vowels, and everything emanates from there. And once you get that, then you can slightly morph the vocal tract in the back of the throat to create these sounds. So let's say you're sitting in your car and you're driving to practice or work or whatever. You can literally, don't get distracted and don't oversing, but you can literally sit there and go, to where you don't hear the speed bump, the register break. I call it the speed bump. Okay, the more we do that, even though it's not usable, that's where SLS bugs the crap out of me, because they say they'll put an octave on your range and it's unusable because you haven't developed this whole concept. But once you develop that, you can lean into that sound, which means making it a little louder, a little longer, and you can bridge it over more notes. So this is mixed voice. This is how we get into mixed voice. Right? Now, by the way, I went from chest to head to chest and back. You didn't hear me have any register break. I did use more air than I'd like to use, okay? I'm doing that by way of demonstration just to show you to be soft on the sound, but I'd much rather build up strength so that we have strength in the sound so it's usable and not just something, wow, gee, I got through there and I didn't hear the register break or the yodel, right? Okay, so now let's get back to something else, and this is where Stratman did something really cool. We have to build a strong foundation for this, which is our chest voice. So we grow chest for a long time, like a year. Hate to break the news to you. For me, it was a lot longer than that. But I sped it up and gave you some tools. It's in the course to where we grow this stuff for quite a while. Then we back off and we say, okay, we're going to go on maintenance for chest voice. And then we're going to grow our head voice. And then we're going to make that nice and bright. And we're going to bring it down into our chest voice. Now, in the rock world, if you're looking to belt up into a C and then pass off this to your head voice, you have to stretch the chest voice. In fact, if you don't stretch your chest voice over time, it will atrophy and you'll lose it altogether. And it's why all these rock guys lost it. It's why, Jeff Tate from Queensryche has lost it. All these people have lost it because they bridged too early and they depended on their head voice to save them to go on up up the passageway. Well, if you do it later, the more you can do this later safely, the more you'll maintain incredible vocal health over time. Okay, so again, big subject, and I'm already 33 minutes of yakking with 33 years of information that I'm throwing at you right now to help you understand this. One last thing I'm going to leave you with, and I'm going to open this up for questions because I'd like to get to, we have a lot of questions coming in, so I'd like to get to that too. When we practice and where do we bridge in the style that we need to bridge or want to bridge in? If you're an R&B guy and you want to do Sam Smith or whatever, it's okay to bridge earlier. It's okay to go into head voice earlier once you've built your chest voice, built your head voice, crossed the bridge really quietly, then gradually created more strength where you can't tell that there is any break there at all, and then you can decide how much air and how much you want to be able to represent that sound in your mid voice. I will tell you, over time, that's not a healthy approach. It is R&B, I get it, and a lot of R&B guys then resort to singing only in falsetto, really down in their lower register. Rock guys just want to kill it, and then they're born in the USA. I mean, just, you know, their whole goal is just to like wow you with power. Well, no, it's about finesse and technique and understanding how we can keep the voice healthy for a really long time. So I'm going to open this up to some questions here. What do we got here? They're going to come up here, so I'm waiting on a friend. Remember that song? I could play it for you while I'm waiting. Let's see here. Carlos, Wagner, Cardosa, Olivera. Dude, can you have so many names? Carlos, Wagner, Cardosa, de Oliveira. All right. I answered that question. Next question. No, I'm kidding. Explain countertenor like a mixed voice. Okay, so with these kinds of questions, what I'm going to do is don't get bummed at me. I'm going to stay a little generic on what exactly we've discussed, because when you have countertenors and there's two different voice types alone for a countertenor and how they would relate to a mixed voice, I could spend 20 minutes on that question. So give me a minute, and what I'm going to try to do, and Bob, can you please remind me of this, is I'm going to try to go through the vocal FOC and break down every single voice type that's on my agenda. So if you'll hang with me, Carlos, hang with me. It will be worth your time because I'm going to give you a lot of references to a lot of good countertenors, but they're not all the same. They're not all created equal. So I'm going to go through all the different vocal FOCs, F-A-C-H types, and then tell you how they change, where they transition, how much air they use like lyric tenors, etc., etc. So thank you for the question, but I don't want to take 20 minutes to talk about that one thing right this second. So next one is Martin Monterosa. How should a vibrato feel different in the body from non-vibrato? Okay, so that's a good question. That'll be an easy one to answer. It's off topic, but I'll get to it quickly here. Vibrato, as I've said a million times, I'll say it 1,000,001, is the state of a strongly supported, diaphragmatically supported whole tone that relaxes into a state of oscillation, okay, with a good vowel placement. So again, if I do a high E, like a soprano note, I can get into a note without a lot of effort and relax because that fly's going to give me. There's a fly that's cruising around. I'm just going to go, bam. he's going to win. But anyway, relaxing into a state of oscillation where I'm not having to kill myself to sing. This should be true at every value of every note along the way. Okay, so now non-vibrato. Some will say, like John Anderson from Yes or whomever, will say, well, there's nothing wrong with no vibrato. Well, maybe that's partially true, and most opera singers way overuse vibrato, but vibrato is sexy, and it should be like landing this note with a good support, really great vowel placement into something that resonates to where you're not having to work so hard at something that you can get it volume out without having to oversing. So, and there's lots of different kinds of vibrato, and you really see my my video tutorial on vibrato because I discuss this. And there's healthy vibratos and non-healthy vibratos, and there's stylistic vibratos. I mean, Aaron Neville, he has this kind of like whatever. But if you listen to a really good vibrato, you're going to go, wow, it's just beautiful and sexy. So, okay. Rim Marak, hi, I'm from India. I want to ask you if anyone can sing in head voice because my voice is very hard and I can't, is there more to that question? Yep. And I can't sing it softly because my voice is, you're going so fast, very hard and I can't sing it softly. How do I do this? Okay, well, it's simple. Actually, it's not simple, but we're going to make it simple today. First, let's say I'm in falsetto, which is head voice, okay? We start on small, bright tones. Now, in my course, when we're in chest voice, I start on the ah vowel because it's the biggest vowel, so it's the most challenging. So we have to deal with the big guy first, and then the little guys come along for the ride. When you have a problem or a challenge like this, you don't want to go to the big guys first. You want to go to the smallest sound first. So what I want you to do is just simply go and try to get a or and get a small sound first. Build up resonance, the brightness. Brightness is king. Again, guys, go back to my singers forums. You know, I'm telling you, Stratman did a good job of this. She shows you his progress of when you do a bright tone and you continue to do the bright tone, how much bigger the resonance becomes. And also the total color of your voice becomes huge. And so when you do this, you do it a little bit, don't overdo it. Watch my video on diaphragmatic support or get my course, whatever. And then little by little, you start to grow it. And it's baby steps. Now, I'm going to confess something to you. When I was younger, I think around 15 or 16, I didn't really care so much about being a singer. I told you guys I was a guitar player, and the only reason I wanted to sing was to get me between guitar solos, so I didn't have to depend on the singer guy. So anyway, but I learned that I had a really bad falsetto. It was almost non-existent. It just was like, had that kind of sound to it. And what I would do is, and I'd add a little brightness to that sound, a little weight into that sound, and little by little, sorry for you headphone guys out there. Anyway, but I grew it to where I wanted it to go, just like any muscle in your body. So think of it in those terms. Now, it doesn't mean everyone has that. So let's talk about Paul McCartney, for example. He's a lyric tenor. He could get that sound, it would just be smaller. Okay, he could get to that place, it would just be smaller. Next question, here we go. I'm waiting for the next question. Sharon McLeod, female voice and menopause. Okay, there's actually, I want to talk about that and pregnancy at some point. So, like with guys, and even as you go through puberty, we have changes that happen. But let me assure you of something. When the voice is a group of muscles, and if we train those muscles on into our 70s, late 70s, 80s, it can be trained in a way just like if you want to go run a marathon. Okay? So just because you're going through menopause doesn't mean you can't accomplish this. It does mean you'll have to work a little harder at it. And it does mean we're on the backside now of we don't get the luxury of taking 3 days off or 4 days off of singing to sing well. We have to sing pretty much every day and stay on top of our game. But that's true for everything, for exercise, for you name it. As we start to age, that's what happens. Now, later I want to talk about pregnancy because it's a big deal. There's a way to, by the way, it's off topic of what you said, but for you ladies out there, you don't want to use your diaphragm in the same way that I lay out in the course because you're pushing down on the baby, you're pushing down on your kidney and liver, or you're pushing up into your heart. And so there's a specific way. We start with a lower diaphragm all the way down to your hairline, your groin muscle hairline, or hairline for women. And then we start to build up from there only to a certain point. And then we have a relaxation response that's controlling the air that gives you the ability to sing through pregnancy safely. We'll try to get to that subject another time. Astrid Anaya, head to chest voice. Why is that like it's too airy? That's an incomplete question. So again, like I said, you have chest voice and you have your falsetto, fluty hooty head voice. And you want to be able to grow a bright timbral sound with your head voice to match the tonal qualities of your chest voice. Bridge it in the middle, mixed voice, bridge it in the middle, and then you'll have one long powerful note like I just demonstrated a little while ago. Nick, Santarols, is there a name for the way Tom Kiefer sings from the band Cinderella? Okay, so let's remember Tom, I love Tom. Tom's lost his voice in his upper register. He belted and pulled chest up really high. Sometimes he was in a bit of a head voice, mixed voice up top. Most of the time, he was like just an American muscle car, just dragging a bunch of weight up to the top. And then over time, you lose it. A lot of people have lost it. They've recovered it. Most of the 80s guys like that have lost it. So what we want to do is we want to hand it off, if we can, around a bridge, around a C5, C sharp 5, somewhere in there, so that we can maintain good vocal health and not lift the whole world on our shoulders like we're shouting or belting all the way up to high E's and so forth. Sha fusion. Before learning mixed voice, I had problems singing the high notes. After finding my mixed voice, I had problems singing mid-voice notes. Hey, you know what? That's exactly what I'm talking to you about. That's exactly what I'm saying. If you don't maintain your chest voice, that's exactly what happens. And if you think it's bad now, wait till later in life when you've depended on bringing mixed voice down so far because you followed an SLS principle that is now destroying your chest voice. Shivji Shukla, sorry if I'm getting these names. I'm Indian and new at your channel. Please discuss the technique for developing powerful, flexible, bassful, melodious voice. Can you explain that better? Because I'm not sure what that means. Powerful, flexible, bassful, melodious voice. Are you saying that you're having a hard time in chest because you oversing and you want to be more graceful with the sound? Can you rephrase the question, Shivji, and I'll try to get back to it because that question doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Next question, Nicole Kisova. How to sing high notes without tension in your neck? Have you done the whole thing on diaphragmatic support? Have you worked on it with regularity? Look at me, watch. Do I look like I'm like crazy straining? No, I'm not, because I have built the resonance in my head voice, or even other high notes in chest, and I'm using incredible diaphragmatic support in order to be able to sustain the sound. This is, by the way, let's go back to that question if you can. Here, I'm not going to use this anymore, but there's medicine is going through a lot of changes right now. Let me say this again. Medicine is going through a lot of changes right now. You've got Western medicine, you've got Eastern medicine, and you got everything in between. You've got what are now called functional medicine, medical doctors that are now trying to combine the two. Here's why this is important. Hear me out, guys. If you walk away from nothing from this whole session, hear me out on this. We treat the whole body. We don't treat an organ that's ailing and shift the problem to the heart, and then treat the heart and shift the problem to the lung, and treat the lung and shift the problem to the brain, because all these specialists out there only know one part of the body. When we understand singing, we treat the whole body. So I heard one vocal coach say this, it's just science. It's only science. And I'm laughing going, yeah, okay, rock star. That's why the little dog running down a soccer field sometimes is faster than the big dog with the small legs. It's just science. The big dog should be killing him right now, but somehow he's developed some technique to get him running faster than the dog with the big legs, okay? This is true for soccer and sports, and we're all sitting in awe looking at this going, how is this even possible? Like, physiologically, how he's able to do this, and we break it down and we think, oh, we'll just break it down and then we'll reduplicate this. There is so much connection in the body, and also in fortitude of the mind and all of our prowess and strength, what gives us the ability to do extraordinary feats, okay? Extraordinary things. Why this is so important is that we first start with the diaphragmatic and abdominal cavity mechanism. The transverse abdominis muscle that goes through the back, down to the sciatica, into the buttocks. We start with good strength. Then we start with understanding the relaxation response between the chest, the neck, and the throat. Then we understand how vowel modifications play a role. But, there's more. Everybody's vocal cords are not the same size. And they don't have the same girth or thickness. and there's lots of different vocal types. So within all of this science, a person has to understand how to direct someone within a lot of different styles and a lot of different approaches to their specific vocal type in order to help them. This is true for guys and girls, which compounds it even more. So we need to understand it's the total body, and we have to work it as a total body, and then we get the benefit of, in my case, 35 years of doing this, helping people get to their end game. Okay, next one.
Back to this question.
Okay, Shivji Shukla. Revised question. Please discuss the technique for maintaining good tone as going up and down in pitch. Well, I have. It's in my course, and I do this all the time. Look at my video. It's the A vowel, that nice bright timbre that you go up and down. That's why I said, go into my forums right now, where Stratman, or Rob, or whatever his name is, has actually done a critical analysis of doing a breakdown of the tonal qualities of how this works. If we have a bright tone first, we can get incredible resonance out of the sound. Like the doctor wants to see your tonsils. If you add a lot of air to that sound, it breaks down the chord structure itself. It's like taking a flamethrower of air to your vocal folds, and it never gets the time to maturate to where, like a rubber band, where you're pulling the chords kind of tight. There's a retinoid crico, or retinoid, or crico, whatever you want to say it, retinoid muscle structure. And as it does this like a rubber band, and it even lubes it as it's done correctly, then all of a sudden you get the bright tone and you can add the air. But if you're an R&B guy and you only use air, you're never going to get the bright tone. You'll never get the power. You'll never get that kind of tone you're looking for. Next question. My falsetto, Joe Jomi, my falsetto is way above my head voice. Okay, so we just discussed this. So this is not making sense to me. There's a break between the top note and falsetto. Well, it should make sense to you. I just said that. Your top note, you're probably talking about chest voice. Where you have a register break there. And when that breaks, it goes into falsetto. So what I'm saying to you is what you're using is the term head voice. I'm saying, let's just talk chest voice, belting register, segundo passaggio, the second passageway goes on into head voice, and we fuse that together to give you one long, powerful note. So what you need to do is go back to however you feel like you got better information or whatever information, and go, okay, what I really mean is my chest voice, the top of my chest voice breaks before I get to my falsetto. It does it for everybody. We're all sinners saved by grace. And we have to figure this out. Paul McNutt. Funny name, Paul. Good name. I make nuts over you. I have a question. Does Kelly Hansen use head? Actually, he does. You know what? On Waiting for a Girl Like You, he's done a really good job of getting in the spirit of Lou Gramm. And kudos to him. I don't know if you know this or not. Way back in the day, I was in a band called Joshua, and what's the name of that band? Hurricane. He was in Hurricane. And we played with him quite a few times. And he has really come a long way in being able to bridge and to get into songs like Waiting on a Girl Like You. Also, I Want to Know What Love Is. You know, some of the other stuff. Does a great job. So yeah, doing a good job. So he uses mix, and then at the top, it's a full head resonant sound that's not mixed. But next one, Walter Meloken. Walter Meloken. I was saying Ken, get mellow. I started as a baritone, and after some time doing your videos, my teacher classified me as a tenor. And now I'm doing your course each day. I am a tenor, and now each day I am way low and way high, and really don't know what is my vocal fuck. Is that a problem? No, it's actually not. By the way, and that's a good question, honest question. So I'm a baritone, classically defined as a baritone. I sing way into the soprano range because I've worked it. When I sing a lot, and I sing for hours, and I get my what I call little boy voice, and I get my voice to register really high, I have a tough time going back down into my classical diagnosed vocal type. That's not bad at all. It just means you're growing your registration. Now, you can easily just take a break and come back and get those lower tones after you've developed and stretched the voice high. Where I would be concerned is if you weren't able to get those high notes and you subject yourself to only staying to low notes because someone told you that that's all you were allowed to do and that's what you believe. So, not a bad place to be. Keep working the voice. Keep doing it. If you want, go back the next day after doing my course and then just do low tone stuff so that you can get a command of that too, so you don't feel like you're losing your lower register and that you all of a sudden just are in little boy voice mode. All right, next question, here we go. Napoleon Mendez de Casa. What does it mean to thin out your vocal cords? Okay, good question. It means to make the sound smaller. So when we go up, I'm going to give you an example of this. I'll use the ah vowel. If I go, it's really big. It's so big it splats. As it gets up to the top, it becomes unmanageable in the throat and too heavy for that sound. So we go, and we take that sound and we go la, ah, and oo, and then we reproduce that sound in the same way on the way back down, so that what we're doing is we're managing the size of the sound as we go up and down the vocal tract. If we try to maintain the same sound, there's no way you're going to be able to sustain that. I don't care who you are. So that's what it means to thin out the sound. I cover all of this in my singing course. Every vowel has a different vowel transition, and you need to learn them. And you also need to learn them in your own registration of where it's supposed to happen, so you can build muscle memory, so you don't have to think about it. It's just subconscious, and you just do it within the exercises. Next question. And I'm glad to get to these questions. We're going to close it down here in a bit, but I felt remiss last time. Like there were so many questions, and I didn't get to a lot of them. So Jorge Gomez is wrong to overuse vibrato. Well, let's look at this a different way. Is it beautiful? Is it a beautiful sound? Is it something we always want to do? Right? Right? It's supposed to be kind of a sexy drop. You drop into something, you relax, it opens up, it vibrates, and then you wow people. Unfortunately, like I said, in a lot of opera, like this constant, like, annoying sort of vibrato happening. But if you went, and all of a sudden you kind of subtly came into something, wouldn't it be cooler if she didn't have so much makeup on? She was just naturally beautiful, and then a little lipstick and some eyeliner and her swag. To me, that's how I look at singing. Is it wrong? No, because a lot of it is like I said, it's a relaxation response for the chords, so it's a default mechanism. But is it always beautiful? Yeah, there's a lot of debate over that. We'll talk about that another time. Can a tenor stretch chest voice? And what are some good specific exercises to extend? Okay, I cover this in my course. This isn't, you're asking for an extreme sport. And that's fine, and I teach an extreme sport. It's called belting way up in your head voice register with chest voice and handing it off. I have a lot of tutorials on YouTube that discuss this, and I also, in my course, I walk you through step by step how to do this safely over time, because it's not something you can rush into and say, hey Ken, how do I mountain bike off a mountain today? It's like, oh no, not another one of those guys. I'm not saying you are, but I'm just saying, okay, Land of Dracula. Oh, the Vlad. Is your name Vladimir? Okay, should I talk to you like this? Maybe I should. Ken, what about a bass type voice? How much should I stretch it? Well, the voice. First of all, take a bite out of the neck. That might be the first thing. And then, once the blood is gone, I mean, silly. How much should them stretch their voice, and what are some good exercises to extend the voice? Okay, again, I cover all this in my course. This is not a quick, fast answer, guys. There is support, relaxation response, vowel modifications specific to a vocal type, consistency with that. And then once you get that more and more and more, we can start to stretch the voice responsibly. To go straight into it, you're probably going to get hurt. Okay? I'm going to do one more question and then we're out of here. What do we got here? Alan Soto. I was singing yesterday for like 2 hours, and this morning my voice is a bit hoarse and it sounds a bit deeper. My throat does not hurt. Was I using a wrong technique? I don't know because I didn't hear you. I don't know how you did it. Could have been that you just overworked it. It happens to me when I sing 6, 7, 8 hours a day. The next day I just have to come back and warm it up. How you'll know is if you know how to do warm-ups properly, you'll be able to get back up into range like within 20 or 30 minutes. And then you won't have to worry about that. Okay, guys, I'm out of here. God bless you. We're going to be doing this again. We've got Saturday and Wednesdays, and I'm going to try to continue to answer these questions and give you good information. Shout-outs, don't forget to mention, of course, Leonidas Villar, greetings from Chile. Baby Bird 19 from Hawaii. Seattle, Washington. Sharon McLeod, a Canadian in France. Ashraf from South America, Antonio from Texas. Lots of people, guys. Thank you for joining me. God bless you. Until next time, peace out.